Okay, we're back for another week, another episode. I'm going to start it off, as always, with a kind of an icebreaker question, I guess. We haven't really named these, but I don't know. That sounds good enough for me.
Cold open.
Cold open. There we go. Ice, cold. I like it. I like it. So obviously, if you're listening, you're watching, you've seen the title, we're going to be talking about the Jim Carrey movie, The Mask. So my question to you is, Jim Carrey has a ton of just fantastic movies. So what was, when you're growing up, your favorite Jim Carrey movie, and is it still the same movie? And if not, then what's your favorite Jim Carrey movie now?
All right, I can dig that.
Okay. We'll talk about it at the end of the episode, and we'll get back with you in just a minute.
Yeah. Your local video store card.
A comic book in your back pocket.
Games with no tutorials.
Music you had to discover.
And drinking water straight from the hose.
These are the things us millennials remember fondly. We are the Jennings brothers.
Join us after the streetlights come on
as we race our bikes from the top of the hill
right down memory lane.
Exchange those quarters, because this podcast takes tokens.
All right, we are going to be talking about The Mask today. If you have not seen it, stars Jim Carrey, Cameron Diaz, and it's about our boy Stanley. And he is a bank clerk. He's not really very sure of himself, finds a magical mask, and it allows him to transform into his, I guess, cartoonish alter ego, and we just watch all the shenanigans that kind of fall from that. So, movie was released July 29th, 1994. I couldn't believe that was 94. I thought that, I swore it was like 97 or something like that.
Nope.
But no, it wasn't. 1994, budget of $23 million. Final grossing total, $351 million.
Yeah.
A true.
And this one, it made back its budget on opening day or opening weekend.
Really?
Yeah, opening weekend it made $23.1 million. So,
wow.
And
this
right
94 was a big year for Jim Carrey, because he had this movie, he had Dumb and Dumber, and Ace Ventura were all out in 94, which
I think they were just like months apart from each other too.
I think so. Yeah. So, like I said, had Cameron Diaz in it, Jim Carrey, and our villain was Peter Green. I was like watching this the whole time, like, where was this guy from? So I looked him up after the movie. He was Zed in Pulp Fiction. That's the only place I've seen him out. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I don't know if I've seen him in any other place, but those are probably his two major roles. But so did you enjoy this movie on a rewatch?
Oh, that's a tough question. I mean, if I'm being honest, no. I mean, yes, but no. Like,
yes.
I enjoyed there was another movie we watched where we kind of had this a similar feeling where we were like, I enjoyed about 70% of it, but there was about 30% of it that I feel like I've outgrown. And I feel like that here. It was very much, I mean, I think it was exactly what I remember.
Okay.
But yeah, I think this, like, it's really like any time they CGI'd Jim Carrey, I was like, yeah, we've gone one step too far. Like, if they could have done any of it with practical effects, I would have been totally fine with whatever zaniness was happening. It's whenever they went to that CGI, it just took it that one step too far that I was like, you know what? This is too much for me. I can't. It's I don't know. I think I've outgrown that. Yeah. Other than, like him putting on the mask, that's fine, being CGI'd, whirling around and all that. It's like whenever he pulls out the guns and like does the whole, what is it? That old Red Fox cartoon or the cartoon that he's emulating with the...
Oh, with the dog and he's hooping at Cameron Diaz.
Yeah, like that whole bit and everything. I'm like, I mean, done practically, it would have sold better to me now. Mm-hmm. But at the time, I'm sure I was enjoying it very much so.
Yeah.
How about you yourself?
I hated it.
Oh, wow.
I hated this movie. But I loved it growing up as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
But rewatching
we watch this one all the time.
Oh, my gosh. It's just too dang slapstick for me. I liked the character. I liked Stanley when he was Stanley. He was just, when he became the Mask, he was so irritating to me. I just wanted to grab him and just be like, shut up. Like, I get it. Like, he's a cartoon. But it was rough. This is the first movie I think that we've done that I've rewatched it that I've been like, okay, this is not something I enjoyed. There was a few things that I thought were okay in it. I much rather would have watched a movie with Milo the dog wearing the mask, because I did kind of like that scene, because I'm like, oh, it's a dog, like that's kind of funny, like whatever. But I don't know, I did not enjoy this, and
I definitely felt the silent judgment coming from my wife sitting on the couch next to me watching this movie.
And it has a sequel, or does it have two sequels?
It does. Son of the Mask, which I've never seen. I've never seen it. That one looked
Jamie
awful.
Kennedy, I think, in it or something.
Yes.
And there was Son of Mask. It had a cartoon series.
Yes.
Which that makes sense, whatever.
Yeah. This was kind of geared towards kids.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, like, if you, like I sent you the message this week, and I was like, you got to check out the comic, because...
Oh, sure, yeah.
I had never I had never read the comic before, but after watching this, I was like, I'm curious what the source material looks like. Mm-hmm. So I checked out a little bit of the comics and everything, and looking at those, this is a big departure from the source material for sure. Yes. And it's very much so like that disconnect tells me that this was definitely made with like kids, or at least like teens in mind.
Yeah.
As far as like their target audience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So since we're on the topic, what did you think about the comics? Because they are a lot darker. Like they're
very dark.
Very, very dark.
Yes. Yeah. I read like, you get like the little free sample of them when you go on, Comixology or whatever. Yep. And so I read the free samples for the 3 volumes that they have of it, because there's like the first volume, which is like that first run, and then there's a second volume that they did, I think, around the same time the movie came out, and then there's like a new volume they did just a couple years ago. And so I just basically read like the first half of each comic of those runs, and then I went back today and I went ahead and picked up that first volume. I just went ahead and bought it and started reading it, and I got through about the first comic book, which the first comic book is, I think, what this is based off of. The first issue, the first issue I think is where they get most of this from, because in that first issue, I believe it ends with Stanley's girlfriend killing him at the very end of the issue, and then taking the mask and becoming the new face of the mask or whatever. And then of reading the the little previews for all the future volumes, there's somebody different behind the mask in each one of those as well. Okay. And it's definitely like this mask, the mask itself is the central character of the comic book, and transitions between different people fulfilling their darkest desires, whatever that happens to be. It's very much so like if I was thinking about it today. It reminds me of the 1988 Batman Joker. If he, just like that complete like wildness and chaos that he brings, but targeted to fulfill the will of its host, whatever that happens to be.
Yeah.
Did you get to read them at all?
Yeah, I read like the first, I guess I thought I read the first issue, and I guess I didn't get to the end of it because I had actually, so through my library, I was able to download it. So I just downloaded the omnibus, and I was gonna read through that this week. And I honestly, like, it got to the point where Stanley was just sitting in his living room, and he was like, I don't know, he had his military outfit on or whatever, and then he went out, and there's a kid. I remember the scene from the comic where I stopped at. There was a kid that was standing in class, and he was supposed to be spelling something, and everybody was laughing at him, and the teacher said, well, just go ahead and retry it. And then he comes in and he just like beats the ever-loving snot out of his teacher. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, this is too dark for me. Like, I can't, she's having him spell something. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she's not a child abuser. Like, I don't know.
In the comic, the way I read that is that she was like tormenting the kid, forcing him to do it in front of the class, and the whole class is like hooting and hollering and making fun of him, and she's pushing him to keep doing this thing that's causing him this torment, and she's almost getting a little she's a little masochistic, I guess, in that way, enjoying it a little bit on a lower level. And I think it wasn't explicitly pointed out, but I think she was on his list. I think she was his former teacher, Stanley Ipkiss's former teacher. Okay. And she tormented him as a kid as well. They didn't really do a good job with like telling all these little backstories like that. Because there's like another scene where he steals a police car, and he's running down somebody, and he's yelling out the window, "You owe me $60 still," or something like that. And it was another thing that was on his list. Like, this person owed Stanley $60. And so he's just going around and like seeking revenge on all these people that he feels have wronged him in his life at some point or another. But yeah, it's a very different Stanley Ipkiss for sure.
Oh yeah. Now, one thing I did appreciate, correlation between the comic and the movie, I liked that they had the sleazy auto mechanics in the movie that were in the comic book. Clearly in the comic,
almost one for one.
Yeah. He kills them in the comic book, but in the movie, he really, we'll just say he really messes him up.
I don't think he killed anybody in the movie.
No.
But in the comics, he murdered everybody.
Just about everybody. Yeah. Vastly different things. The comic book and the movie. But
in the comic book, he can like take on like somebody's look. Like the mask was almost inversed. It was like he could become, instead of him becoming this green-faced guy, this rubbery guy that could run around and do all these different things, he could become anybody. Like, there were points in the comics where he would don the face of somebody else and their look to get by and do whatever he was planning on doing. Like, at one point he pretends to be a cop, but then he always like rips off the face and reveals that green mask underneath of it, very grotesquely. Very much so a comic of the early 90s for sure.
Oh, yeah.
A Dark Horse comic of the early 90s for sure. But I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I mean, yeah, because you around that time, I think like Todd McFarlane was coming out with Spawn, and you had all this. Just it was that was really the turning point. I feel like where comics really took a darker turn was around that. But anyway, there's our comic book top for today. But I wanted to take a second, and I wanted to talk about this detective, this this mastermind of a detective, putting his entire case on 3 pieces of evidence, right? So he's got the piece of pajamas that fell on the ground
that nobody else has.
That nobody else in Edge City has these pajamas, you know? So he's writing his case on this, on the video footage from the bank, which, you know, we know it was Stanley that stole the money, but they don't. The guy's wearing a mask. Like, how are you going to prove that's Stanley Ipkiss?
Yeah.
Oh, here's how I'm going to prove it. This Batman of a detective is like, I am going to prove he was there because we have fingerprints from the scene. Oh, wait a minute. Fingerprints from the bank where Stanley Ipkiss works at. None of this is going to hold up.
And
I could defend Stanley. And he thinks he's going to get a conviction out of this whole thing. I'm like, who is this guy? How did he get hired?
It's very much so 90s like law, TV law going on here. This is not well vetted. They did not have a lawyer sitting in the writer's room at all. They were just like, hey, what kind of works? We'll just go with that.
Yeah.
It's The Mask. People will buy it. They just want to go see Jim Carrey, make goofy faces, and do impressions. That's all.
That's what we got.
And it was worth it. It was fun. I enjoyed it as a kid.
Yeah. Oh, I loved it as a kid. So there was this guy. So years ago, like it was maybe like 5th or 6th grade, maybe 4th. I don't know. I was a lot younger, and I lived in my grandmother's old house right now. But down the street was a place where my mother and I lived at the time. And of course I had a bunch of friends in the neighborhood, and we'd be riding our bikes around during the summer, and we would hear the ice cream truck. So for you younger listeners, I don't know if this is still a thing. It's not in our community, but during the summer months, there would be people that would drive a colorful truck around. It sounds super creepy, and it probably was, but we didn't know it at the time. They had music
sold candy,
playing.
cigarettes.
Yes. And they'd be playing music, and you would come up to them while they were driving. They would stop, and they would open their window, and they had all kinds of ice cream. They would have like a picture on the side of the truck that told you what kind of ice cream that they offered.
Snacks, chips, candy, sodas.
Oh, yeah. It was great.
Some of them had toys.
Toys, yeah.
Little novelty toys, but toys.
The last time we had one was like maybe 3 years ago. They rolled through here, and they were going like 30 miles an hour. Like, they didn't want to stop.
I'll make you jealous. We have one. Okay. It comes all year round, except in the summer. It does not stop in the summer. It doesn't come by in the summers.
Really?
But it comes throughout the school year because we live like between like 3 or 4 different schools. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, like within walking distance, like they're all really close. And so it just kind of makes the rounds around our little neighborhood, hitting out front of all these different schools as they release, and all the kids just flock to it, and they get after school snacks. Yeah. So like he'll also drive through our neighborhood, when he's done on the way out, or whenever he's coming in, one of the two, and kind of like pick up any stragglers, that kind of thing. And whenever we first bought this house, we were the second house that was completed in the neighborhood. So they were still building houses around us. Mm-hmm. And so while the construction crews were here, he would come in every day, all year round at like noon, and hit them up for like a post lunch snack. And they would, I bet we'd go out there and get ice cream every once in a while. It was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like we had this guy, and he was this, like, I don't know, 40-something just surfer dude. And so my point of this whole story is that he was a huge fan of the movie The Mask. And every time we would show up, he'd be like, he would ask us, he had this gravelly voice. And he would ask us, he'd be like, hey, you guys seen The Mask? And we're like, yeah, like you've asked us like 6 times this summer if we've seen The Mask. But yeah, we've seen The Mask. And he's like, oh, okay, you remember that time when he's like smoking? And then he'd laugh. Then he always that's all he ever wanted to talk about was The Mask.
He just
And
wanted to
we
hear. He
saw
just
him-
wanted to do his. He just wanted to do impressions for you.
He did. Maybe he was like, I don't know, maybe he thought we were scouts in disguise or something for Hollywood. I don't know. But yeah, we saw him. It was like 2 summers, I think, maybe 3, that he would come by. He would always ask us about. He would always want to talk about The Mask. And then we just never saw him again. So maybe he got his big break. I haven't seen him in a movie or anything, but I don't know. If he's out there listening, man, you made for some good stories. So thank you very much.
Thanks for the ice cream.
Yes.
So, watching this movie growing up, growing up in this movie, I'm going to kind of piggyback on your cold open question here.
Mm-hmm.
Watching this movie growing up, what was probably your favorite scene growing up? And then rewatching it, was there a scene that you still enjoyed at least, or maybe was your favorite?
So growing up, it was probably towards the end when he gets the mask back and he's, dodging the bullets and he, swallows the dynamite, just that whole scene. And he finally flushes, I can't remember what the guy's name is, the big bad guy.
Dorian.
He flushes him down the drain, which I'm like, now I'm watching that. I'm like, where'd that guy
Where'd he go?
go in the sewer? Like, where is he? Where is he?
Small drain pipe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But now, no, it was rough.
Hard pressed.
Yeah, I liked when he found the mask, because in that opening scene, that diver's down there and he's opening up that chest and he gets the lock off, and then for some reason a pipe falls on him. Like, there's nobody else on camera.
They're doing like pipe work for whatever reason.
Yeah, I have no idea. And the pipe falls on him and kills him. I'm like, did we have to have, like, this guy's death didn't even need to be in the movie. They could have just had some people with pipes and they're like, oh, watch out, it's going to fall. And it falls and you see it go down and open up a chest, or whatever. I don't know. I just thought it was kind of a pointless death. But I like when Stanley's, he's just looking over the bridge and he thinks he sees that guy and he's like, hey, and he runs down there and then the police are like,
character.
Yeah, it does. Like I said, I liked Stanley the character. I liked him a lot.
Yeah.
And the police ask him, what are you doing down there? And he's like, I was looking for my mask. Like, I thought that was kind of clever.
I found it.
Yeah, I found it. And yeah, so what about you?
Well, growing up, I think it was the Cuban Pete musical number that he did. That just
Gosh.
For whatever reason, that just tickled me growing up. And rewatching it now, I gotta say the part where he's in the club, I think the first time,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, give me back the money or whatever, and they start shooting at him, and he's like doing all the different impressions, dodging it, like he's Elvis, he's the Russian dancer, and then he's the I think. But my favorite part was whenever he turns into the cowboy and he finally gets shot, and then he kind of does that little like ooh, ah, ee, that little walk down he's hurt, and then he collapses in the guy's arms, and he's like, tell Tiny Tim, I'm not gonna be home for Christmas, and like all these little things, and then like he keeps like turning over and like coughing, and then like the last time he looks over in the guy's face and he just coughs right in the guy's face. Right. It was just killing me, and then like. The guy's losing it. He's crying because he's dying in his arms and everything. And that was just that one killed me this time. Still, that one held up for me. Just that little bit with the cowboy that held up for me. Okay.
Well, yeah. Different strokes for different folks.
Now, I'm not going to go watching this movie. I don't know that I'll ever watch this movie
watch it again.
I gotta say. Yeah.
I for one will not.
I've definitely seen it enough now.
Yeah.
Growing up, I don't think I could have made that same claim. Growing up, if you would have said, in 20 years, you're going to watch this movie again and you're not going to enjoy it, I wouldn't have believed you. I would not have believed you because we enjoyed this movie so much growing up. But yeah, it did not. Definitely did not hold up as well.
No.
I have fond memories of it, and I'm going to hang on to those.
Yeah.
But we were talking about the sequel earlier. I never saw the sequel, but you were talking about the dive scene. That's what it was, and there was actually a deleted scene that came before that.
Okay.
Where some Vikings end up putting the mask in that chest and then burying it along the riverbed. For whatever reason, there's Vikings in Edge City. I guess it's supposed to be like New York.
Yeah,
it seems like. I guess
that's kind of how I feel.
Yeah. So like Vikings apparently left it there to get rid of it, and then I want to say I read or heard somewhere that the mask itself is part of like Norse mythology. Like, I think it has something to do with Loki or something like that.
It's in the movie because he's talking with Ben Stein, which that was one thing I did. I like seeing Ben Stein and stuff.
Oh yeah,
because he was he was a doctor that had written that book that was like The Masks We Wear or something, and that's what he was saying. He was saying that according to Norse mythology, they had banished the spirit of Loki into this mask. Okay. And I didn't, growing up, I didn't understand what any of that was. But now, like, that was one thing I guess I did enjoy about the movie. I'm like, well, that's a clever way to make your plot point of, whatever, whoever puts this on, it kind of makes them, mischievous and makes them kind of bring out their innermost, whatever. And so, yeah, I'll give it that. I thought that was good.
Yeah, the whole, like, I don't know, mythology of the mask is good. And, reading the comic, I could totally see, and this is what they did with Son of the Mask and Mist with, but I could totally see how this movie could be sequelized several times with completely different casts, because the mask gets passed off from person to person. It's not about any one character. It's about the mask itself. Now, with that being said, I don't think I would want to watch any sequels unless they did one a little closer to the comics, like a dark version of it. I might be interested in watching, depending on who's in it and how it looks. But I could probably get sold on like a dark version of the mask.
I mean, we kind of got that, right? With I can never remember his name. Peter Green's character, the bad guy. When he put the mask on, like, I thought he genuinely looked horrifying with that. Oh yeah,
he was terrifying as a kid.
Yeah. And his voice was that, that really deep, like, there's always time for one last kiss. Which, I don't know. That scene was a little silly, because I'm thinking, like,
a little hokey.
Oh yeah, Cameron Diaz is,
like, he can do or have whatever he wants, and
this
is the thing that's gonna, like, make him give up the mask for a minute.
Right.
I mean, come on.
Right. Yeah. I don't, but I agree with you.
I was watching it, and
you go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, I was watching it, just that part with Dorian, and I jumped on IMDb because I was like, there's no way that he's playing the character in the mask. Like, they had to have cast somebody, like some bodybuilder or something like that for this. But I didn't see anywhere in the credits or anywhere that referenced anybody else playing it but him. So I guess they just put like a ton of like makeup and prosthetics on him, because like his neck was like huge.
Yeah, it was huge, which was crazy because when Stanley put it on, like his physical appearance didn't change. It was his body. It was just his clothes and his face, which this is something. And I guess maybe the comics, I felt this way too, but not so much. Like, everybody, he's walking around like he's going to this club. Everybody sees this guy with a green mask on, and no one thinks twice about, this is kind of weird. Like,
Yeah, I know.
who is this guy? You know, like Cameron Diaz like falls in love with him.
Yes.
I'm like, what is this? Like, how? Like, is she
agreed.
that just like desperate
Like they're just
for?
like guy in a green mask with big giant chompers? Sure.
Yeah,
Whatever.
yeah,
No big
yeah. Like
every day. Y'all didn't see the blue guy walking through here last week?
right? It's so weird. It's just it's such a weird movie. And
It's definitely a suspend disbelief. Like, not even
you
suspend
ain't
disbelief. Take disbelief out back and shoot it, because you're not going to be using it at all in this movie.
You don't need it. It's exactly what it is. Yeah. And his friend, what a jerk, right? I mean, one, he's a complete sleazeball. Like, he is like sniffing Tina's jacket.
Creepy.
You know, oh my gosh. And then like he's like, hey, come to the Copa, whatever the name of the club was, with me. And he goes, and then he just completely forgets about him when they're letting him into
him.
And I'm like, who is this guy? Like,
I remember thinking he was a creep growing up too. Like, I mean, that was definitely not like, that's not the character growing up that I was like, oh yeah, that guy, I get it. That was the character. Those types of characters you see in the movies growing up, I was always like, they paint it that way. You can see him a mile away. He's not supposed to be likable or anything like that. He was definitely like a creep, and it was super obvious to everybody outside the movie, except for the people in the movie who just treated it as like harmless whatever. Yeah. Which maybe that's just what it was at the time. We were 13 and 8 at the time or whatever. Yeah, and the thing that like something I guess I did notice when I was watching it, like there's a lot of suggestive humor that's in it in parts. And then you've got like everybody's smoking, and it made me think, because now it's I want to say you don't see that as much in movies. I mean, you do have movies with people smoking and stuff like that, but not everybody is, unless you're watching, a period piece or maybe a mob movie or something like that. And if it's a movie that like they know is gonna have like a child audience, they tend to like tone that stuff down. Yeah. Or make it a lot more, not subtle, but not as noticeable. Like there was definitely no like subtlety to most of that in these movies growing up. And that's what like my apprehension for, because having kids for years, I was like, oh, I can't wait to show my son The Mask. I loved that movie growing up. He's going to enjoy it too. Or my daughter, my kids at all. And I'm like, but I remember it was not appropriate at points, but I can't put my finger on exactly wasn't appropriate about it. So I'm going to hold off until like they're in their teens, and it can be, because it's a PG-13 movie, so I'll hold off until they're in their teens, and then whatever it is, I'm sure we'll be fine. Yeah. Watching it now, I'm like, it probably would have been okay at like a slightly younger age, but it's definitely not for kids.
No. But we talk about this every time, like when we did the Terminator episode, RoboCop, all this stuff. Like, we watched all these movies. Like, I remember watching True Lies with Dad, and there's like one scene that is pretty, and I remember Dad just being like, close your eyes. It's like, okay. And then he told me when it was okay to open my eyes, and he didn't want me watching that, but it was okay to see a guy strapped to a rocket and getting shot into a building.
He's a terrorist, though. He had it coming.
Yeah, that's right. And I don't know. I think it's just a lot of us, millennials, people our age, we all have memories like that where our parents were very just, whatever, with watching things. And but I don't know if we've as a group of people have been scarred by that, because I feel like we're a lot more conservative with what we let our kids see now, than back then.
We definitely take a more hands-on approach.
Yes,
as
that's
far
what
as
I mean.
like
Yep.
vetting what it is that they see. Until you give them an iPad and let them run wild on YouTube.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's that's it.
That's our generation's version of that, I suppose.
It is. Yeah. Maybe in 30 years they'll be like, I can't believe that you let me just run wild on YouTube.
Right.
So
hey, I was on YouTube Kids. I did my best.
That's right.
That's all I had.
Yeah.
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 But
that loaner car though, you remember that loaner car from the movie? I did get it. I did laugh at that. Like that was I like where he, because I'm not wanting to pick this.
They don't make them like that anymore.
Yeah, it's a classic.
Yeah. Ipkiss genuinely had a good attitude about getting the short end of the stick, which he got frequently.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I liked his arc, where he finds the mask and he's like, okay, I need this so that I can have some self-confidence, or whatever, and be the person I want to be. And then by the end of the movie, he just throws it away. He realizes he doesn't need that anymore. He's comfortable in his own skin, and and then his sleazy friend tries to go get it, and Milo is the ultimate hero of this movie. His dog, he takes it and swims away with it. Who knows where it goes? But and I'm thinking too, another thing that this movie is credited with and is good for is this is Cameron Diaz's first movie.
Yeah.
And she had there was a lot of good stuff that she was in, that when there was a lot of bad stuff she was in. But I don't know.
Suppose you could say the same thing for our boy Jim.
Yeah. So I don't know. There's that. It was
I tell you one thing that has stuck with me since I rewatched this movie that I cannot get out of my head.
Okay.
And it's that big band music that they played in the club.
Oh yeah.
That swing music, man. I don't know what it is about that. That just it infects me whenever I hear it, and it just sticks with me for weeks.
Do they have clubs like that anymore? Because I know they're really going with the old 50s, was it the Copacabana that was in Goodfellas?
Yeah.
And what was the one from I Love Lucy that Ricky worked at, or he owned the club? I can't remember, but it was it's that Cuban themed big band, sort of a thing. And I don't know if that's even still a thing anymore. Surely somewhere there's nostalgia out there, and someone is got a club like that.
Oh yeah, there's the whole rockabilly movement. I don't know if you've seen those people, but they dress it's like the 50s, but it's like a kind of a mishmash of the 50s and modern. It's like you ever see people making or talking about mid-century modern furniture?
Yeah.
And they're kind of bringing that aesthetic into the modern age. It's kind of like that. The rockabilly movement.
Yeah. Stray Cats. I know that's a little bit older, but you ever heard of that band?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're rockabilly. I don't know. When you say rockabilly, I think about the Stray Cats strut. Anyway, I've lost you on that. That's fine. Stray Cat fans out there will enjoy the reference, maybe. I don't know. Well, I think I'm about tapped out on The Mask. Good riddance.
Ready to take it off?
Yeah, I think so. Do you have any last thoughts on
this?
It?
This makes me wary. I know we have Ace Ventura and Dumb and Dumber on our list to cover at some point. I'm scared. Yeah. It'll be fun. I know Ace Ventura is probably going to be a lot worse, and Dumb and Dumber might be tolerable. but we'll see.
We'll see.
We're going to put some distance between us and the mask. We're going to have to like sleep this one off a little bit, and but we'll come back to it. But I'm going to choose to retain only the childhood memories that I have for this movie, and just, you know, that's what I'm going to hold on to and I'm going to forget about this last viewing.
Fair enough. I'll do the same thing. So I can think about the ice cream guy, and I'll think about the ice cream guy.
All the times that we watched it growing up.
Yeah.
The fun we had.
We did have fun.
All right,
with
you ready
this
for...
movie.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, growing up, you know, like doing the little impressions, and it was a lot of fun. It definitely, like, I think it informed probably our humor in some way.
Oh, sure.
If not The Mask, Jim Carrey as a whole at this time.
Yeah, absolutely.
But so going forward, next week we got a bit of a pivot. I'm going to throw at you Mission Impossible.
The original.
The original, not the TV show, the 94, 95. Tom Cruise, Mission Impossible.
Yeah, sounds good. I am anxious to rewatch this one. I was anxious to rewatch The Mask. So, but
I think this one will hold up better.
I think this one will. Yeah, I agree. I think this one will hold up better. So yeah, that sounds good.
All right. I don't think I have any closing thoughts on The Mask. I mean, you know, we talked about Milo's a great dog. My favorite scene. I did want to point out one, maybe two little factoids. So the mechanics, the garage that they're working out of, did that look familiar?
No.
Because it should.
Okay.
That's the Ghostbusters firehouse.
Oh, no way. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is legitimately the Ghostbusters firehouse.
Wow.
Which I was watching the movie this last time, and I thought, you know, that place looks familiar, but I can't quite. But I was like, it looks like the Ghostbusters firehouse, but there's no way they used the Ghostbusters firehouse for this movie. Yeah. And I looked it up, and sure enough, it's the Ghostbusters firehouse.
Yep.
It's the set that they have in LA for the interiors.
Okay.
Not the New York one.
Sure.
But yeah, that's a little factoid for you. And then number 2, did you recognize the skinnier mechanic with the Coke bottle glasses and the buck teeth?
Oh, no. I probably should.
Maybe he's that guy. He's Tim Bagley. He's done. He's got a bunch of credits to his name. I could sit here and ramble them all off. I'm probably not going to hit ones that you know, maybe or maybe not. I don't know. It depends on what you know him from. But like, if you look at his IMDb credits, he's in like everything. And whenever you see the modern picture of him, you'll be like, oh yeah, I've seen that guy in at least, you know, a dozen things. But you know, I recognized him kind of, and I was like, is that that guy? Because I didn't know his name.
Yeah.
But you know, then I hit the IMDb, and sure enough, you know, I was like, oh yeah, it is that guy, and he's been in so much stuff. But so Tim Bagley was that guy. He was one of the mechanics, and you know, if you look him up, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but I'll check that out.
Yeah, those are the last two little thoughts I had on the movie before we wrap this bad boy up.
All right.
So yeah, next week, Mission Impossible. Any closing thoughts from you? Other than just get us out of here?
I'm sorry. I hated this movie. I hated it. I have a lot of good memories with it, and like you're saying, I will hold on to those memories, but I do not have to hold on to the movie.
All right. Well, I think that that takes us to the end. Somebody stop me? Well, we're gonna stop you. We've reached another checkpoint, my friends. Sharing is caring. Reviews help a lot. And keep those tokens ready. And we'll see you next time.
We'll see you then. This podcast takes tokens is a Clay Street production. Okay, so back to my question that I asked at the beginning of the episode. So I'll repeat it. Jim Carrey movies. What was your favorite as a kid? And is it currently still your favorite Jim Carrey movie? If it's not, then what's your new favorite? And if you're listening, if you're checking us out on Spotify, you can answer that question, and we'd love to read your responses on the air. If you're watching us on YouTube, we love our YouTube viewers. Comment, or you can always send us an email at thispodcasttakestokens@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your responses.
Make sure you're subscribed. Just make sure you're subscribed.
Yes.
Share it with everybody that you want to share it with, the people you think would like it, people you don't think would like it. Share it with your mom. Share it with your grandma. Share it with, your coworker, that guy you hate at work, whoever. But, just send it out there. That tells YouTube that people enjoy this and they want to share it. And then it'll start sharing it with other people that are like-minded. And that's how we grow the audience. Yeah. And we'd appreciate it very much.
Yeah.
Simple things, right?
Exactly. Yeah. We want to, we love doing this, and we want to give you all kind of what you want, because we know you love what we love, and we want to keep bringing more, and we just want to hear from you.
So growing up, I think if you had asked me, well, I mean, it depends. Okay, at what point do you ask me this question? Let's just say under 20.
Okay.
I probably would have said, well, no. Because that changes. You know what? It's an evolving question. I will say it is an evolving question. Growing up, probably around this time, we had The Mask, Dumb and Dumber, and Ace Ventura all came out around the same time. Of those, I think Dumb and Dumber, I probably enjoyed and watched the most. I got a little bit of a guilty pleasure out of Ace Ventura, but I always felt wrong watching Ace Ventura. Like I was doing something I wasn't supposed to be doing. And from my understanding as an adult now, I get that. But so I'd say probably Dumb and Dumber at that time. But then it evolved. And he did Liar Liar and Truman Show, which I really enjoyed. Mm-hmm. Then Man on the Moon, which once I saw that became my favorite. Mm-hmm. Bruce Almighty was good. I enjoyed it. But it didn't take this top spot for me. Yes Man, that was another one that was a lot of fun.
I thought that was
a lot of fun. Yeah, I watched that one. I wouldn't say regularly, but that's one that if it's on TV, I'm in a hotel room or something like that, I'm going to watch it.
I'll tell you.
Same with Fun with Dick and Jane. That one's another one that's kind of along the same lines. I really enjoyed that one too. And I think, I'm going to end right about there. I did enjoy his take in Sonic the Hedgehog as Dr. Robotnik. That was a little fun.
He was good.
That was a lot of fun. But I think more recently, and I say that loosely because the Jim Carrey has been kind of thin over the last 20 years.
He's gotten really into art and stuff like that.
He's officially retired now. Yeah. So there is that. Although I think he's coming back for the third Sonic the Hedgehog or something like that. Yeah. But I would say of that last little true run he had, probably Fun with Dick and Jane was my favorite 2000s one. But overall, if I'm standing before the breadth of his work and I'm told to pick one movie to watch next, it's going to be Man on the Moon. That one, it was so good. I really enjoyed it. It had such an arc. There was so much emotion to it. It had humor. It had heart. There was, he's dealing with cancer and all these different things and just had all these ups and downs. It was very much so a human story.
Oh, yeah.
And I really enjoyed that one, I think. So for you, let's turn the tables around to you. Jim Carrey movies.
So I got to say real quick, just piggybacking off of your what was it? The Yes Man. That was it, wasn't it? Yes Man.
Yeah.
That scene, I still think is it. So I think Jim Carrey's funniest scene is when in that movie when the guy
The
is
Red
on
Bull? The part with the Red Bull?
No, where the guy is he's getting ready to jump off the building, and then he just
Oh, yes.
comes out of the window playing, I wish you would step back. It's so funny. It's so funny. It's the way he comes out, and I don't know. I laugh every time I see that.
Yeah.
But yeah, growing up, it was Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
Okay.
I had that movie on VHS. Why I was given that movie, I don't know, but I watched it constantly, and I enjoyed it a lot. But yeah, like you, I think it is something that it's an evolving thing. When he started showing his dramatic chops, like the Truman Show,
Yes.
is it's so hard to say pick your favorite.
Yes,
but there's the Truman Show, and then Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is
that's a good one.
a really, really good movie. And which movie is better? I would say probably. I would say I probably like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind better. But what do I think his best? What's my favorite performance of Jim Carrey? It's from The Truman Show.
That's a good one.
He really like his range because he's got some comedy stuff in there, but then once he realizes that, like that
Starts putting
scene,
2 and 2 together.
yeah, that scene where his wife is in the kitchen and I can't remember what she's advertising, but she like looks over the camera and she's advertising. And he's like,
it's like, who are you talking to?
Who are you talking to? Yeah. We're going to have to do an episode on The Truman Show.
Oh, yeah. It's going on the list.
Yeah.
I need to go down to the filmography and add some here.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'll say Truman Show is my favorite of his. It is.
And you know what? That's actually Bruce's favorite.
Is it really?
Enjoys
Awesome.
it. Yeah, like we watched it with him a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And he really liked it, and he's watched it several times on his own since then. Like he's like, that's just, and he'll ask to watch. He's like, I really like that movie. I like Jim Carrey in that movie. And I'm like, yeah, it's a good movie.
Did you ever watch the Jerry Seinfeld series on Netflix, Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee?
I've watched probably a couple episodes and then like a lot of clips on like YouTube and stuff.
There's a Jim Carrey episode that's pretty good. Okay. You should check that out.
All right.
Yeah. So let us know what your favorite Jim Carrey movie is, and we'd love to hear.
Because The Mask somehow turned into our Jim Carrey opening episode.
Yeah, we love Jim Carrey. Just The Mask, in my opinion, is not his best movie.
Did not age well.
No. All right.
Good.
Well, we will see y'all next week. We appreciate you. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. See y'all next week.